Good morning. It's good to see everybody. Hello, Melissa. I see you joined. Um, we are doing this. The Thursday sessions are these super quick, just a little bite-sized piece of something. So today we're doing a super quick session on practicing pronouns. I'm Kristen Croyle. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And I'm the dean in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and I'm also a psychologist. And I love to do introductions, but given the 20-minute length, we'll just jump right in. This is a lovely group of people. The reason that this came up, by the way, is that I was talking with some people who were trying to change over in their pronoun use. And the kind of responses I heard from them were things like, I keep trying and trying. And as a psychologist, I can tell you that when you're trying to change a habit, whether it's a habit of language or a habit in your life, trying and trying is actually like wildly unsuccessful. It's better to use strategies. So I thought, well, sometimes people don't think of strategies to use. Maybe we should talk about strategies. I also have this quirky camera that occasionally changes my color on screen. So you'll see I have gone to bluish purple, but I may transition to another color. This is not meaningful in any way and has nothing to do with the presentation. If you've been on screen with me in a while, you know this is a quirk of my camera. So I am going to share my screen here. Okay, so we're focused today on getting new pronouns to stick, with the idea that sometimes our kind of default pronoun use, whether you call someone he or she or refer to them in the third person and ownership like hers or his, that default pronoun use is sometimes incorrect. And if someone you know or love or work with changes the pronouns that they use, it can be difficult for you to shift in your practice. Also, if someone you don't know well doesn't make a change, but their appearance for some reason doesn't align with what you automatically associate with certain pronouns, you may use inappropriate pronouns with them and want to make a shift about that. So that's what we're talking about today. What we're not talking about today, by the way, we're not having a detailed conversation about sex and gender identity, because we don't have time for that. And there was a great session about it 2 days ago called Gender Identity Training Using Pronouns at SUNY Oswego, which is already on Zoom. Thanks to John. If you didn't know that he's posting all of the CELT sessions, not on Zoom, on YouTube, you can find it there. We're also not focused today on how language is fluid and changes over time. There is all kinds of fascinating discussions that we could have, especially if we had a linguist in the room, about how language is transactional between people, that new language evolves all the time, that making up a pronoun, making up new words, neopronouns, is actually a real thing and is completely fine. And you can use they as a singular pronoun, and language is a thing that changes. But we're not really talking about that today. Instead, we're talking about practicing strategies. So there's two things that I'm going to touch on. One is when you practice strategies, one thing that you can do is shore up your motivation, because practicing any new habit takes motivation. So you have to keep reminding yourself, why am I working at this? Oh yeah, there's a reason. So we're going to talk about motivation a little bit, and then we're going to talk about some actual strategies we can use. So for motivation, the most important thing is to just remind yourself why this is important. And the main reason it's important is that it is a matter of respect. So you can imagine what it would be like. Let's say that I worked with you in the same office, and every day, 10, 20 times a day, I was subtly disrespecting you, saying, I don't really care about the person that you are. I don't really care about how you see yourself. I'm going to describe you in a way to other people that is wrong. I'm going to write emails about you that you're copied on where I subtly disrespect you. And I just say, this person doesn't really matter to me. The way that they see themselves doesn't matter to me. Using a person's correct pronouns is a sign of respect. And if you use incorrect pronouns for them, it is a sign of disrespect. And we all may do this accidentally sometimes. And making a quick apology and moving on is a good strategy. But it's not a good strategy if you do it 10 times a day. And if it's someone you work with or love or a close friend, that may literally be happening many times a day. And it's really fatiguing and depressing for people to be disrespected over and over and over. So I'm saying you use this as a way to remind yourself, I need to practice this because I'm hurting this person every day. And I know that none of you would want to do something that hurts someone every day that you had control over. And it may be discriminatory. That's also a reason. To me, it's the less important reason because it's more, it sounds more global, but it may be discriminatory. If you make a mistake here and there, that's not the issue. It's more if there's someone who's repeatedly told you and you continue over and over and over to use the incorrect pronouns and to disrespect them in that way, it starts to maybe become a discriminatory action. Okay, so now let's talk about practice. What you're trying to do when you learn to use new pronouns on a regular basis, you're actually trying to create new neural pathways. Because the idea is, perhaps it's someone who's changed their pronouns. The idea is that when you look at them, you have a set of pronouns in your head that's associated with them. So for example, you look at them and you think, I knew this person, their name was Jeff, and their pronouns were he and her. And when I see Jeff, I think he, but he changed his pronouns to they. So when you see them, you're trying to create a new association in your brain away from he and her towards they and theirs. So this is the way all learning happens, by the way, creating new neural pathways. So you're trying to shore up the road to they and their and kind of break down the road to he and her. And one suggestion for this and we're going to look at some specific things, is to try and use the correct pronouns in your head or out loud at least 5 times for every time you use the incorrect ones. By the way, in memory research, there's no magic number. It might be 20 times or 1 time. It depends on the situation. But let's just use 5 as like a quick and dirty rule. You're also trying, by the way, while you're doing this, to create positive associations with the new pronouns. And the reason this is that when you see Jeff, you don't want to think, oh, Jeff is such a problem, because when I see Jeff, I get all anxious about using the wrong pronouns. And I don't want to talk to Jeff because I might use the wrong pronouns. And I don't want to think about Jeff because I might use the wrong pronouns. I get scared when I see Jeff that I'm going to use the wrong pronouns, because the effort associated with the change can sometimes create a little tension inside yourself. That's not Jeff's fault. That's your brain's fault for having the wrong pathway to the wrong pronouns. So we're also trying to create positive associations with the new pronouns so that we're not all cranky and anxious about using the new pronouns just because it takes effort to do it. Now, as a completely separate example, I took Spanish in college. And if I had known that I was going to later live in Texas for almost 20 years, I would have studied a lot harder, but I didn't know that. And I didn't study at all. I just thought that, I was a student that was used to kind of cramming, and you can't cram a language. You have to study it over time. And I was horrible in my Spanish classes, and I really didn't like them. And the reason I didn't like them is because they were so hard and effortful for me because I wasn't studying. So when we're trying to practice new pronouns, you don't want it to feel negative and feel hard and be angry at the person who has new pronouns just because it's hard. So we're also trying to create some positive associations. So what can you do to practice? All kinds of things. You can write about the person. Writing is a great way to learn to use new pronouns for someone, because it is more, it requires some thought and effort, and you can reflect on it and see what you've written and reflect on it. So one thing to do is you could write praise, like a couple paragraphs about the person that uses a lot of pronouns. So you could say, Jeff is an awesome person. I appreciate how they help me out when I need help. And how they are always responsive if I need something. And I love the way that they cook, ginger cookies, and just write nice things about them, because then you can look down and you get used to using the they or whatever pronoun that person has selected. Or you could write a story about a person, a fantasy story, Jeff, who woke up one day and they could fly, and they were flying through the sky, and they did this and they did that, to get you into the practice of using whatever new pronouns. If it's somebody that you work with, you could write fake emails about them along the same kind of line. Don't send them because these are fake, but it's the same kind of thing. Oh, I'm, emailing someone else and saying, Jeff did this project and they did a really great job on it. And they added this and they did this and they took the initiative in this way. So that you just keep using and using the new pronouns in potentially in situations where you might use them. You can also use visual cues. So a visual cue could be something like putting a Post-it in a place that you would regularly see it. And when you see that Post-it, you use it as a cue to say a couple of sentences to yourself. So every time you see your Post-it about Jeff, you could say, oh yeah, Jeff today did this thing and they did that and they did this other thing. So you just use it as a cue just to talk to yourself about that person. Use a couple of sentences so that you use the pronouns a couple of times. You could also put a Post-it on your computer so that if it's someone that you work with, it cues you that when you write emails about them, that you should think about their new pronouns. Just a little memory reminder. And that's not emails to them, by the way, because you almost never use pronouns when you are talking to the person. So when I'm talking to John, I don't say, John, thanks for doing all these amazing sessions for CELT. He is doing an awesome job, because that would be weird. I would say you, and you are doing an awesome job. But if I was writing an email to Jessica about John, I might use his pronouns. So you're putting this Post-it on your computer to think about when you write emails about this person. Another thing you could do is practice speaking positively about the person with a supportive partner. And a supportive partner doesn't have to be a human partner. Some of us, perhaps in your life, you don't have a partner who's willing to practice just random talk about somebody. You could talk out loud to your plant or to your pet. You're just practicing speaking these same kinds of things. You can also, if you're working with someone, support your work team in using correct pronouns, so that if you're all making a shift together to use new pronouns for someone, you can make sure that you correct each other, whether that's both in speaking about the person, it's also in emailing. What other ideas so far have I missed? What do you want to suggest? Okay, you could keep thinking. Put something in the chat if something occurs to you. Because there's one other strategy that you can use as well. And part of it is loosening your attachment to gender pronouns and descriptors. The English language, as well as some other Romance languages, we're just super, super attached to gender. So here's an example. You see a puppy, a really adorable puppy. And in English, you have to know whether the puppy is male or female to talk about how adorable this puppy is. But does it matter? Is the puppy adorable no matter what? No matter what sex that puppy is? Yes, the puppy is adorable. So it's strange. It's actually cognitively an odd thing that you have to know whether the puppy is male or female in order to talk about it, even in your head. You imagine petting this puppy. What do you say? Oh, is she or he, house trained yet? Oh, is he a good boy or is she a good, we're so attached. If we loosen up that association a little, because sex and gender are not that important in many of our reactions with people. So here's some examples of ways that you can loosen up your attachment to gender. pronouns and descriptors. So here is the actual puppy one. Instead of saying, that's such a cute puppy, he's such a good boy. That's such a cute puppy. They're such a good dog. So if you practice, like, instead of saying he or she, stick in a they, stick in something else. If a student wishes to raise his or her grade, this would be in writing. If a student wishes to raise their grade, yes, you can use their singular. It's no problem. Or make it a plural. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of saying ladies and gentlemen, which assumes everyone in the audience is either a lady or a gentleman, and you may have people who choose not to describe themselves that way. Plus, by the way, whether or not they're male and female is not relevant to the situation. If you're addressing an audience and you say ladies and gentlemen, it brings attention to their gender, which has nothing to do with the situation. So instead, you can say all kinds of things: honored guests, students, colleagues, friends, y'all, folks. Instead of saying dear Mr. Jones, because you don't really know, and this is a letter greeting, you don't know if Mr. Jones wants to be called Mr. Perhaps Mr. Jones doesn't use that honorific. You can use first name, dear David Jones. He is a strong candidate. Use a name, Jamal is a strong candidate. And this helps you to start thinking of, where am I inserting sex and gender into my language, where I'm so attached to it that I can start to kind of let go of those attachments some. Use people's direct names, use non-gendered language. And this can help if you're working or friends or family with someone who is also making a change in pronoun. And hey, I made it in 20 minutes. So thank you for your for joining me today. I will share a link in the chat. Tuesday's session that was in more depth about gender, about pronoun use, about sexual orientation. They generated a resource list. And there is the resource list. It also highlights SUNY Oswego has a new pronoun website to help give people guidance in using pronouns in professional workplace and in writing and in websites and so on. And I'm sure that I've left out a whole bunch of things that you want to know about or that you want to talk about. So let's take 2 minutes so that John can stay on schedule. Anything that you'd like to share or other strategies that have worked well for you as you've tried to change your use of pronouns.
So, Kristen, the thing that, excuse me, the thing that causes me anxiety is not so much the use of the pronoun, but the use of the verb that goes along with it. So my inner English teacher doesn't allow me to very easily say, they is going to do this. And I've seen this written by people who are attempting to be correct in their use of language, but the third person plural matching with a verb that is singular is just, there's great dissonance in my brain. So is there any miracle solution to that?
Well, I love the way you phrase that, because in practicing new language, there are no miracle solutions. That's kind of the key theme here. It's all practice. The people that I have interacted with, they care less about the verb than the pronoun.
Okay.
The they is the most important part of that sentence. Now, if you work closely or you love someone who is using a they pronoun, you could ask them about this. And that is also true for all of this. You can always ask them, as long as you're not saying, why are you doing this to me? Don't ask them that. Say, this is a natural pattern for me. Is this something that bothers you? But in many cases, the they is the most important. So don't get too hung up on verb tense.
Thank you.
Kristen, is it okay? I've had students who transition basically through 3 different pronouns within a semester. Is it okay just to kind of use a blanket they and them as opposed to maybe trying to, trying to keep up with, or to avoid offending someone who may use a different pronoun?
It's not uncommon for people, if you've got kids, for example, who are in the like 16 to 22 range, many of them, oh my gosh, I'm so blue. Many of them will use they as a default pronoun, especially if they don't know somebody. If someone has told me their pronoun and I'm having a hard time remembering it and I haven't had a chance to practice, I will sometimes try and use their first name a lot more. So even even when speaking about them, Jeff is doing this and Jeff is this and Jeff. So that way it gives me a chance to go off and practice more.
I'm thinking if they haven't, because I've got some where you're not sure what pronoun and you haven't had that conversation with them. But I'm copying them on emails or something when I'm trying to get something straightened out for them in that particular case.
Right.
If I
Try and
don't
use
know-
first name more often.
Okay.
Because you can stick it in where you would not normally use a pronoun and it's completely fine. But yeah, they as a default, I think is a newer language development that many of our more traditional student age population is familiar and comfortable with. But as a default, when you don't know and you haven't had a chance to ask.
Thank you.
I asked for consultation. I asked a bunch of people on what kinds of things I should talk about. And I asked my 20-year-old, who is very knowledgeable about this, what I should talk about. And she said, why do you need to talk about this? My friends just do this naturally. So this is the thing that if we, with our older brains, are not actively trying, some of our younger students will not understand why we are being so disrespectful of them. Say, we do this together all the time. What is wrong with you that you can't show respect to us? So we talked about why we need to talk about this and how, we have set mental patterns that we need to shift out of. But that gave me extra motivation to work a little harder. Any other thoughts before we can let John stop his recording?
I just wanted to say that your last comment really did affirm my feelings of I don't want to come off as disrespectful using the wrong pronouns. So kind of, with like your daughter and the college students, they're just used to it. It's not an effort for them. Or maybe for some of us, it's there. So maybe it's an effort. And I never want to come across as disrespectful. So, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And you can keep in mind, you don't have to be worried about talking to or about people. If you don't know what pronoun to use, just use their first name. And if it's a group of people, you just don't know what pronouns to use, you can absolutely use they. You don't have to get all stressed.
I also do practice. My niece uses they, them. So when I know I'm going to see my niece, I practice, whether it's in the car or what have you. So
Good for you.
Yes.
Good for you. And if you are still thinking, why do I have to use other people's correct pronouns? That's a different session. Go back and watch Tuesdays.
Joyce said niece, and that's one of the things that I struggle with, because there are no neutral names for like aunt, uncle, niece, nephew. So that's one of the areas that I struggle with different folks. So
Yeah, and it's a good point because some people wouldn't mind at all if they may use they them pronouns, but be happy to be called niece. But others, that may be something that is not affirming for them, in which case you get to call them something else, your loved one, your sister's child,
that's what I have to practice, right?
But they can just be loved ones, right?
Yeah.
And that's what this is about, right? Showing love and respect. So thank you, John. Thanks for hosting.
Thank you.
I think we can stop the recording.
Okay.
Great to see all of you.